Hello, brothers and sisters. I am glad to be back, and honestly, it seems like the phone is winning the contest for the easiest way to make informative videos. So we have little birdies over here hopping around, which is cool. So, come here, Nemo. Come here. We got big old Nemo here. Oh, this wasn't planned, but he was over here and the little animals reminded me, say hi, Nemo. Say hi. Who is that? See that doggy? Get him. Get that doggy, Nemo. Get the doggy. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, why are you holding me? What are you doing? So, I wanted to share something with y'all today. I had packed up a lot of my books and everything, and this is the ones that didn't go into the boxes. The Interlinear Bible, coded to Strong's, the Strong's Concordance, the expanded one that I like so much, Benjamin Abbey, I saw you showed that one too, the Hebrew Greek Keyword Study Bible, the Alfred Edersheim, Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, the Dictionary of Latin and Greek Origins, and God's Secretaries, The Making of the King James Bible by Adam Nicholson. Wow. Wow. These men in their high robes and the gay clothing, the soft raiment, the delicately arrayed ones who are in king's courts and are in king's houses, right? And who do they worship? They worship the things that they've made dogma. That's the image that they come in. That's what is set on their hand and as the frontlets of their eyes, just as the scripture says that we set God's rules and laws on our hands and on our foreheads. No one is usually familiar with those. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 8. And it's also speaks of it's also spoken of in the good context when it's spoken of in Revelation if you type in foreheads. So these men come in their own authority and in their own names, and they just preach whatever, right? You know, Jesus says you'll believe anything that they say because they're not pinning anything down, right? They're not interested in the spiritual reality of God's hand writing upon our hearts and us being living epistles. It's just easier to be scholasticism, and it's easier to just believe in theology, right? The inactive literacies, meditating and reading. Isn't that easier? Isn't that easier than having to do something? Than the active literacies, which are writing, communicating, and actually speaking. These people don't have any fellowship. They have about as much fellowship as 7 or 8 different countries like Russia, China, the United States, South America, Canada, fighting over a bunch of money and resources. That's about how loyal they are, right? And that's why we see all of the different denominations. We see all of these different building projects. There were 5 instructions George Barna discovered were the things that were the doctrines of the churches, the instructions of the churches. And how do we know? Because that's what they are working towards. So he might not have said 5 instructions, but these are the 5 marks of success for the worldly church, the one that was arranged through the bureau, and they are more money, more budget, or that's the same thing, sorry, more budget, more attendance, more staff, more programs, and more square footage. That is the marks of a successful church. 5 covetous practices. And a covetous man is an idolater. Baal, Lord. Oh, God save the king, these secret groups, politicians, keeping us divided. They keep us very divided because guess what? Our doctrines don't mix. They have false doctrine and we have true doctrine, right? So what we begin to realize is that most of these people believe in false doctrine and they worship a false God. They all. Sorry, someone walked by and it kind of distracted me there for a second. So what happens as we learn, we begin to develop an understanding through our circumstances and through our listening to the things that people say, and we begin to see through the lies, through the myths, through the Ponzi schemes, through the Bureau, right? They're not concerned. They're not concerned about the poor, the widow, the fatherless, and the strangers. They're concerned about their houses, their cars, their clothes, and just being popular. So any way you can do that, right? Any way you can do that, even if it's appearing to be humble. The lies are easy to spot. Like if you see a big, enormous church and they have their own brand they've stapled on the front and they're making all this money by these large crowds that they're drawing around this clergy, seminary graduates, and people who built the church to begin with, they are the lie, right? And we all fade like the chaff, like the wind, and we die, we perish from off the earth. And these men think because they've done great on the earth that God is like them. And God says that in the scripture. He says, you thought I was such a one as you. You thought I was like you. But he isn't. He isn't. What is a spiritual being going to do with a lot of money? Well, what we see happening on earth is that true believers reach out to try to speak and try to communicate, and they can barely do that because everything is so divided by sports, competition, that philonikia, fondness of conquering, of victory, and nicolation, the conquering of the people. We got 2,000 people saved. That means 2,000 people bring in more money. Give us your money because we're doing great, right? Boasting. Alazania. They are thieves and robbers, the ones who are against God. All they see with their eyes is money and physical. They see physical things. They see gold and houses and stuff, and their eyes are fixed upon it and lusting after it. The philosophers, if you get a better education, you get to move up in rank. You get to climb the pyramid, right? More money. Generate more money. Add value to the company, right? Value through degrees, through Bible colleges, diplomas, right? Academy, Aristotelian, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, right? This is where all of the information we have began to develop. The school of Tyrannus, the school of the tyrants, the mothering and fathering of children and nursing them up on falsified information, darkness. True information is light, true doctrine is light, and that comes from God. It's order. And that's all we see. That's all we see in our reality is order, you know? Even if a big flood comes and something like that happens with a flood, it's because of a reason that you can see the perfect explanation as to why they happen. But there's more to life, isn't there? There's emotions, there's sadness, there's the intellect, there's the core of our being. And that's what God takes over. That's where God does a manual override on the automotive system because we want our own way. And he cast out the money changers out of the temple. And he binds the strong man and spoils his good and gets him out. And what they do is they intentionally craft their words in deception to deceive so they can build the illusions and for the things that they want for themselves with selfish, gain glory, gainsaying, prating with malicious words against true believers, because you have to create a schism if people begin to fellowship, because you have to try to make fellowship impossible. And that's where you get in there and divide it and sow discord. Discord of false information, discord of separating people from one another, families, neighbors, friends, right? Well, they can only do it while they're here, right? Because they're not invincible. Natalis Solis Invicti, the birth of the unconquerable sun, right? They think they're invincible. Baal, the sun god, rather than understanding God made the things the way he did, and they serve Shemesh, the other name for the sun, servant. But they call it Baal because they say the sun is God, right? The king is a god. Heroification, apotheosis, putting a man up on a pedestal and saying, "We love you, you're so great, you great man." Saul was jealous over David because they said, Saul's killed his thousands and David's his 10,000s, and the women said that. He's like, oh, right? The girls are liking him more. I'm the king. The girls are supposed to bow to me, right? So the king-priest combination goes back into ancient time. And there we go. There's that dichotomy again. There's that analogy in that parable we have that there are evil kings and priests, and there are good kings and priests. There are analytics people get to track so they can make money, and there's analytics people can do and track to try to get information out all over the planet, right? God's information. So, no wonder Paul said that to the pure all things are pure, but to the defiled and unbelieving, even their consciences are corrupt. I can't remember exactly how it says it, but that's exactly what it is. They paint their evil minds upon the world, just like when God works in us and we see the beneficial and beautiful things, God paints those things through us. So we see things in a way that is a return to innocence versus the complete lawlessness that seems to be overthrowing the entire world. So I just wanted to share some things with y'all and get some information out there, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to watch, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Alright, bye.